morning. NCA-F, our friends from the COI. I think I need to especially welcome Rajat, who's been an old guide, mentor on everything that I have myself learned from his days in TRA. And of course my other friends, colleagues from the DoT, Department of Posts, people from the academia, industry. Spectrum economics as such over the years has always been in a kind of a background because we are, as a department, as implementers, as providers of the service based on spectrum, we are kind of obsessed with the technology area of spectrum. It was fine when there was spectrum was scarce, and it was even less than what the industry required in the initial years when we started licensing in the first come first served basis in the initial years of this century, and then shifted to auction based methodology. You are all aware that we are barely auctioning 2,000 to 3,000 megahertz of spectrum in the initial years, and that really upset the economics of spectrum and the scarcity premium and what the economists study as the winner's curves, and all those issues were very prominent in the initial years of allocation of spectrum, and largely till we had an economist or a bureaucrat economist as a TRI chief, these issues remain unaddressed. They kept arising and yet remain unaddressed for a number of years. Rajat may say it's still unaddressed, but increasingly we are getting used to thinking about it as and when we approach the operators, the other users in the market. So we have in some ways become aware that there is a world outside the IMT which needs to be taken care of so far as spectrum allocation is concerned, and yet not discourage the investments that have already been drawn into the IMT. So it's a very delicate balance that we are trying to achieve now, and what we do today will have an impact in the coming years very soon. So I'm not going to tell you what spectrum means, because we are all knowledgeable people who have gathered in this room. But our foray into 5G technology has largely changed the way we look at allocating spectrum, and economics has a lot to do now, lot more to do now with how we are going to allocate the same spectrum that we found it very convenient to auction in the last decade. I don't know how many of you are aware that we offered as much as 50,000 megahertz of spectrum in the current auction, and if all of it was bought, then perhaps for the next 20 years, or rather the next 10 years till the life cycle of 5G continues, we could have, if everything was sold, we could have taken care of the requirement of the telecom operators. But obviously money doesn't come easy, not even we keep assessing their financial books, and most of you would be aware that making large investments is also a very difficult decision, and they have to strategically take those that are on priority and defer those that can be deferred to a later date. We have kind of, when we planned 5G, one good thing we've done is the life cycle. As you are aware, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, people spoke of the life cycle of these technologies getting reduced over the years. And unlike 2G, which kind of survived for 20 years, you are aware that 3G was a very kind of a damp squib after all the excitement it created in 2010. And then 4G came, and perhaps in 7-8 years we are here to change it again to 5G. We have already some kind of a target we have fixed that 2030 we move on to 6G. So that life cycle planning is almost reduced to a decade now. And that is what is altering the economics of spectrum allocation. An important element is, and you would have noticed in this year's auction, that we have allowed an exit option from spectrum after 10 years. So these are significant market forces changes, rules changes in allocation, rule changes within the auction methodology itself, to ensure that the operators and those who are allocated spectrum outside the market, they are all able to sustain the ownership. You know, there is enough revenue stream coming to compensate for whatever they have bid to the government in terms of, or how much they have committed in terms of investments for developing this particular technology. So we have a Bharat 6G Alliance. It's being talked about a lot in this campus for the last 2 days. And there is a definite plan to move into the 6G technology in 2030. And of course, there will be a spectrum requirement, and there may be humongous spectrum requirement. You are all aware that as the pipe expands, in India, we are more or less committed to this mobile telephony. And as the pipe, we expect the operators to get the pipe to suit the current usage or requirements. And as it expands, it requires much larger investments. And that is why you see these demands of reducing the cost implication of spectrum in the investment plan of the operators, and also ensuring at the same time that there is sufficient spectrum available to meet the scale requirements, the speed requirements, the coverage requirements of the country for the entire life for which we allocate that particular band of spectrum. So there's no doubt that wireless communication now is pivotal to our enabling seamless connectivity to ensure that that there is digital transformation, digital growth, digital assisted economic growth within the country. Spectrum is become the quintessential resource that at all times need to be made available at affordable costs, so that the services and the various kind of services that ride on this network are readily available to all the citizens continuously without any interruption, and also that it continues to provide a sustained tool that is available for economic growth in the country. You are aware of the recent initiatives that we have taken in allocating the mid-band spectrum, the millimeter band, which is, and also combined with the sub-gigahertz band, which is the expensive, the more costly band that is that makes up the inventory which the wireless advisor maintains in his in his kitty for allotment to the various operators. We have done a lot of easing in terms of what is required as a financial obligation to the operators. So there is the spread that we have made. When they bid in an auction, it's a 20-year commitment. So it's like a EMI. You can keep paying and utilizing, unlike the earlier upfront payment. So there is an opportunity for businesses to be able to assess what will be their load on their investments and what is the return they can expect from previous years, from their investments. Largely 5G investments have been very good in this country in the last 1 year, and I think the achievements in terms of physical achievements have been stated by various speakers in this conference, but since COI head and others are here, I can repeat those, and they have 3.54 towers. I think Mr. Mittal declared he has 5,000 towns across the country already on 5G. So these achievements have been phenomenal, and perhaps some of you are managing revenues, and you can see the impact it's happening on revenue. So one of the key milestones which perhaps few people noticed was the gross revenue of this sector went upwards to cross the 3 lakh mark. So it was somewhere around 2004-05, it was 70,000 crores. In 23-24, which is a 20-year period, it has reached 3 lakh crores. So that's another important milestone that has been crossed by this sector. We have also taken various small steps. The CNPN allotments, they allow leasing of spectrum. We have allowed spectrum slicing and such other measures where there are debates on whether it interferes with the net neutrality principles and such other externalities in the market where people get worried every time a new economic method is evolved. Is it going to cause a disruption in the operations? Is it going to cause a disruption in the pricing of the spectrum? So even the valuations are undergoing tremendous changes. So these are the important sessions that you have today, and I think some will be talking about valuations, some will be talking about pricing. There is a session on auction design. Then, of course, the elephant in the room, or rather the entire spectrum ecosystem in India, is the satellite spectrum, which everybody is eagerly awaiting, but also hoping secretly that the most convenient way of making it available to the country is something the TRI is still to express its opinion on how it's going to be done. But that's one area which is very current and being debated all over the government, as well as in large parts of the ecosystem, the operators, the manufacturers. Everybody is keen to know how this will actually play out in the coming years. So we have done our bit. We have reduced the spectrum usage charges. So increasingly tending towards zero now because of the allocation in 2022. I think the next action will also take it further down, because we are actually offering much higher amounts of spectrum than we ever did in the previous years. There's a lot of attention on the R&D, and you must have noticed in the other talks that have been happening since the day Prime Minister inaugurated. Even he was very clearly talking about need for allocating sufficient spectrum for tests, for development, for innovation, for encouraging the abilities of the startups that are coming up in our country. So IoT, M2M, etc. These are areas that that in some ways demand some kind of a de-licensed spectrum. Now the real problem is that what I stated before, creating a balance between what is de-licensed and what is allocated to the IMT operators, so that a balance is created and neither of them are put at a disadvantage. But there is no doubt that the arena of the de-licensed usage is increasing a lot, and some predict that on some day, as many human beings, there are 7 billion who are expected to be connected to the network. There will be a similar number of machines that will be connected to each other. So you will have 7 billion human beings and then 7 billion machines that will be talking to each other. So space has to be created within the same spectrum. So, it's not something that wireless advisor invents. It's what the inventory is available with him, and out of that, the allocation is done. Of course, manufacturing and the manner in which we use it, these give a lot of push to the way the spectrum is used, and therefore spectrum usage efficiency and measures to how do we measure the spectrum usage efficiency, that is also becoming a very much a part. And when we make methods to assess whether optimal usage efficiency is being achieved, there will be areas in the economic sphere, and I'm sure in the discussions somebody will address those developing issues. ITU is already trying to evolve methods by which we can put numbers to spectrum usage efficiency, and that can become a basis for refarming, for redistribution of spectrum in the coming years. So these measures are also gaining significance as we move into a world where the assignment to various stakeholders need to be reassessed, maybe in a shorter duration than 20 years that we currently allocate spectrum to. So when there are too many rival stakeholders who are demanding spectrum these days, and you'll see these arguments being frequently thrown at regulators, which is all DoT, and is that you have assigned spectrum to a particular pocket of users and it is being underutilized, and therefore there is a demand to shift it from there to some other area of usage. But sometimes these things interfere with how you value spectrum, and sometimes it interferes with how much it is going to serve the public interest. So these are understandings that we need to evolve, and I'm sure today's discussion will go further in giving some very, very definite answers to some of these questions that keep arising repeatedly. Every time there is a new step, all these questions get thrown at regulators, and they have to deal with it, or at least be able to give a reasonable, balanced answer to every question that is raised regarding allocation and assignment of spectrum. So it does require a very stable regulatory regime which is able to provide consistent reasoning over a period when this allocation is done and the manner in which spectrum is used. So we do have a challenge, how to make spectrum work more efficiently with greater efficiency and greater service of the public interest as well. So you have auctions, you have valuations, all of it affecting the spectrum regulatory regime, and also creating space for all the new operators. So the real pipe, the data pipe that we have, which is, there is a constant demand to increase its size, because the usage, as the usage increases, to keep up with the speed, how much speed the pipe provides. To keep up with that, there is a requirement of increasing the spectrum that is allocated to them, or at least, or the operators have to come up with alternate technologies that increases the efficiency of use of that particular spectrum that is assigned to them. We have an industry where we have, they have made 30 years of investment. So we have to be guarded that we don't create a situation of disadvantage to those who have created this wonderful infrastructure that is guiding the digital growth in the country, and then also largely also contributing to the growth of the digital economy as well as the overall economy of the countries, where it increasingly digital economy becomes a major contributor to it. So IMT is our mainstay. It's the backbone of the economy, and therefore there is a certain tilt, I wouldn't call it a bias, but a tilt towards the IMT industry whenever a regulatory decision is taken. And the other stakeholders are always questioning that tilt, and they demand that that there should be greater emphasis on other services. So like the satellite industry today, I think it's a closed room, so we can speak about it, is what the operators say is it's a 500 crore valued sector. And therefore, they should be given an advantageous position so far as the allocation of spectrum is concerned. But nobody can predict where they will be 10 years down the line, or 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. The operators are very clear about the fact that they are also in the business of providing broadband, and that directly competes with the services that they are providing. And what is it that we can do? So not only the valuation at these times, also the time period for which you allow them, even if you create an advantage for them to grow, to be able to be ubiquitous all over the country, you need to fix a timeline where you can treat them equally. So that those understandings, those inputs into the regulations, they also need to come at these times itself, before we commit ourselves to a 20-year regime like we did earlier. So how long these regimes have to be? We started with a 20-year regime because we wanted to encourage long-term investments into this sector. Now that a lot has been achieved, we also need to look at these time periods. How long do we allocate on a certain condition? On longer conditions, on longer time period, do we have to have alternate regulatory environment? So these are all innovations within the regulation that are required to meet the economic challenges that will appear for a long period. So I remember when we were trying to price spectrum in 2013, and these economic models are based on a lot of assumption, and when you do assumptions beyond a 10-year period, I think I leave it to Rajat to explain why they are so uncertain, and why you need to be reserved and cautious when you make these long-term assumptions. And sometimes things can turn out to be very different after a short-term period. So we need to be cautious about all that too. I think I've taken enough time. There are a lot of panels that are waiting. So let us, all of us are here, and let us embrace this immense potential that telecommunication, spectrum economics, and wireless communication have. These are the pillars on which the digital world of tomorrow will exist. And I would request to you, all of you, to engage freely and frankly into whatever is being discussed in the 4 panel discussions that you have today. And be ready to contribute more, because your work will undergo changes to absorb a lot of what is happening today, and it's a struggle which Praveen and Shivendu go through now. They are looking at alternate auction methodologies. They are looking at how to package, spectrum so that it can fit into some other auction methodologies. So we need to become aware of not every auction methodology will be suitable for allocation spectrum. So we need to clearly understand which auction methodologies that we can use for a long time. We've been using just one method for a long period of almost 13 years, and treat today as an opportunity to learn of alternative methods, and possibly, without risking failure, can we move into some other method to be able to allocate the spectrum in a more efficient, more optimal manner, so that the usage in the coming years for all areas, the de-licensed, the licensed, the satellite, all areas become, the assignment is very cohesive, and that we are able to lead the industry to a kind of a situation where they have a continuous growth, because this industry is going to contribute significantly to the economic growth of the country in the coming years. So thank you very much. Have a very engaging day today, and thank you to all.
Sir, your eloquence and the depth of your knowledge have truly enriched this gathering, and we are fortunate to have been in your presence. I request DG NCA-F sir to felicitate Member Financer with a small memento as a token of respect for his invaluable guidance to this area and NCA-F in general.